and welcome to LMR Live, the same exciting and informative and fun talk show produced by the University of Mississippi's Living Music Resource, but we are now under a new name, LMR Live. This name was created by some of the Dream Team who felt it reflected our personality a little bit better, and I agree. What do you think? Yes! So, what do? LMR takes a contemporary approach to an interview about classical music. We give you the opportunity to interact with acclaimed musical experts in real time and are proud to be making Oxford, Mississippi, the portal for this kind of interactive learning experience. I am Nancy Mariah Balish, University of Mississippi Associate Professor and the creator of the Living Music Resource. Are you ready? Are you ready to interact? I know you want to do the cheer, but I'm going to hold you down. Thank you to our viewers who have sent in questions, and please keep them coming. We want to hear from you. Chat on YouTube. You can tweet us at LiveMuseRes or post on Facebook. Tonight, we're beginning a new series with LMR Live called Insight on Life. We are doing Insight on Life, the opera singer, tonight. So, what does it mean to be an opera singer, both on and off the stage? Every career requires certain types of lifestyle choices and commitment. Does it take a certain personality, or is the personality formed by the career? We hope to shed light on the lifestyle of an opera singer, see how opera doesn't have to be stuffy, what opera has in common with other genres, and enlighten all that are watching. We're going to jump in with several guests this evening, but we're going to start off first with Sandra Moon. Sandra Moon has had and is having an amazing career. She has sung with New York City Opera and the Metropolitan Opera. She has sung with, I'll name some names that I know you know, Placido Domingo, Renee Fleming. We know these, yes? She has over 100 roles in her repertoire. She's performed extensively in Europe. And guess what? On Saturday night at 7:30 in Nutt Auditorium, if you live in Oxford, you can come see her portray the La Divina, Maria Callas, in Terence McNally's Tony Award-winning play, Masterclass. So you have the opportunity to see her in action. Help me welcome Sandra Moon. Thank you. Really appreciate you coming to Oxford. You know, her home is Baton Rouge, LSU. We'll overlook that little detail.
For now.
I'm teasing. Appreciate you being here to do LMR Live. Appreciate you being here to work with our students on German repertoire tomorrow. She's worked in private lesson with some students. And then Saturday night, the big show. And I appreciate you bringing it here.
I'm excited.
So I want to start off with questions that have come in from viewers ahead of time. Someone wanted to know, when did you know that you wanted to be an opera singer?
Well, it was much later than you might have expected. I was in undergrad. So I went to undergrad school thinking I was going to be another, this is going to date me, another Carole King. So, and then some opera singers from Cincinnati Conservatory came to Ohio University, where I went to undergrad school, and it was the Donna Elvira, I remember, and they did a scene, the sextet from Don Giovanni, and I was so impressed with that. And it was then, I probably was about 19 years old, 20 years old. So I sang in choir when I was in high school, but it came a lot later than most people, I think.
Mm-hmm. So what I said a moment ago, I'm curious about this concept of, is someone drawn to a certain type of career because of their characteristics or personality types, or do those personality types come out of the experiences of being in that career? I mean, what does that sort of start to create in your mind, that thought?
Well, I work with a lot of people. I teach at Louisiana State University, and a lot of these younger singers, I think that if they're inhibited to be, you know, a show off what we do on stage, really, I think they think they have to be that in real life, and so they feel like they can't do it because they're not really that way in real life. And I think you have to, you can be a humble person and still show off on stage. So I think you can develop the quality of being on stage without taking that in and feeling like you have to do that in private life.
Don't you find, I mean, I've found a lot of people I've been around who are, you know, very established or respected performers are actually very shy off stage, and very private. You know, do you find that?
I do. I find, well, I remember watching Mr. James Bond, Sean Connery, on a talk show once, and he was extremely shy. And I see that often. Comedians, either they're really on and you can't turn off the on, you can't turn them off, or they're quite shy, but they can put it on when it's necessary.
When it's necessary. So if you were to put in a nutshell what the sort of lifestyle traits or choices of an opera singer are, what would you say?
You have to have discipline. You have to have discipline because it takes a lot of courage to do what we do and to sometimes sacrifice part of your private life. If you're singing all the time, you might not be able to go out and party with your friends as much as you would like to, but you also have to have a life. So it's a tricky balance.
How have you found that balance? I mean, what keeps you centered?
I think, well, I have a daughter, and my daughter Lauren, she grew up in Germany, and I think having her kept me down to earth and kept me balanced to realize that you have to have a normal life as well as singing. And she understood my business. She understood it, and I think that was a big, huge help. And I had a really supportive family as well. My mom was a singer and a pianist. She never did it professionally, but my sister sang, and she's teaching in Mississippi, in fact, in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Kim Moon, she's at William Carey. And my brother also had a career singing. He's still singing, but he did opera for a while. In fact, we did La Bohème together, but not Mimi and Rodolfo. That would have been weird.
That would have been a little strange.
No, I was a Musetta, but he was the Rodolfo. So having the support of a family is a big help for a career.
Yes, I think having that, you know, your support group that is there for you and makes you the best you that you can be. What is the favorite role you've ever done?
Oh, I love the Puccini roles. Mimi, probably. But I did Madame Butterfly and Liu. And I loved those kind of vulnerable characters.
Favorite location? Favorite house that you did that in?
I have a favorite house, but I didn't do those roles there.
What's your favorite house?
Well, I liked singing in Dresden, Germany. It's a beautiful opera house. It's called the Semperoper. And I sang Baroque music. I did a lot of Baroque music in Germany, actually at the Met as well. But that opera house. I did also a Baroque opera in Munich, where I lived for 16 years. And it's called the Cuvier Theater. The Cuvier Theater, and that was a beautiful theater. Those European opera houses are gorgeous.
Anything on your wish list that you're still hoping, any role or locale or?
Gosh, I did a lot of my wish roles right off the bat when I started. I wanted to do Sophie and Rosenkavalier, and it was one of my first roles when I went to Germany. I wanted to do Manon in Massenet's Manon, and it came my way. Gosh, maybe Tosca, but I don't find that I'm the type, really. I mean, you have to feel the type as well, but I love the music from Tosca.
Fantastic. Well, let's bring out your, cohort in Masterclass, your partner. We're going to bring out Patricia O'Neill here in a minute. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an opera singer with an extensive international performing career of credits, including Germany and the Far East. She is an expert in incorporating Alexander technique into performance. And I have to say, while she's been here, she's led 2 classes, one for our theater students and another for our music students. And she is a fantastic director. This I can attest to personally, because I'm getting to work with her on this masterclass production, and it's so amazing to work with a director who allows you to be organic and let things sort of evolve, and she does that so beautifully. So help me give a warm Ole Miss welcome to Pat O'Neill.
Have a seat.
Can you sense the fantastic energy that comes from these ladies? They are so genuine and talented in all things. So I want to ask you the first question that I sort of gave to Sandra. When did you know you wanted to be an opera singer?
Well, I grew up in a musical family. My mom was a beautiful singer, and everyone in our family was a performer. And still, they didn't push me into it. And I developed really late vocally, so it took a while before I thought there was even the possibility of my being a singer. So I think it probably happened sort of mid-bachelor's degree, where I thought, well, yeah, maybe I could do this.
And was there any certain, I don't know, show or teacher or role, or did it just sort of unfold of, I wanna try this out?
Well, I think it was always in my blood. I had been performing since I was a little kid. And so it was just a matter of if I had the voice or not. But I have always been in love with theater and always been in love with opera. I mean, when my mom would haul me along for her rehearsals, and I could sing the operas, and, you know, all of her parts, and sang in the chorus. I was in an opera chorus first when I was about 10. Samson and Delilah, of all things.
Oh my goodness.
So, you know, it was just in my blood. I've always loved it.
Mm-hmm. When did you start diving into the directing arena? When did that come to be?
That happened actually when I came back from Germany, and I was involved in a church, and they wanted to do productions, and I thought, well, I would love to be a director, and so I started directing. And we did straight plays, and we did musicals, and sometimes it was in them. It was just fun, and I really figured out I was good at it.
That's a good thing. Both of these ladies have performed extensively in Europe, and I have to say our students were so excited in their questions in sort of that vein. So I want to get to some of their questions, and these tend to be a little more logistical than performance-based, but and either of you feel free. How is the performing business different in Europe than it is in the United States?
Oh, boy.
That's a big question, but
That's a day in and day out process. You have a job as a singer. And here, I think it's just 3 weeks in Knoxville or 3 weeks in Atlanta, moving around a lot. And over there, you are hired by the city or the state, the county.
Yeah, you are hired by the city. You're paid by the government. It's just totally different. They view the arts and respect the arts much more than we do in this country, sadly.
And there are street names, Meistersingerstrasse or, you know, and Papageno's Platz. And I think here they don't have that as much.
Yeah, it's part
do you
of the culture.
feel there are different skills one needs to perform, have a European career versus an American career or North American career? No?
Stamina. For Germany, stamina, just because
Yeah.
you're doing it.
What is a typical
day in
schedule?
10 to 1 rehearsal, and then they have this huge siesta break from 1 till say 6, and then again in the evening, or your performance. And sometimes you might have a rehearsal in the morning and then a performance at night, and you have to be really careful and be good friends with the person making the schedule so that you don't have to sing La Traviata at night and rehearse Eine Nacht in Venedig in the morning,
Oh
a
my
night in
goodness.
Venice or some operetta. You know, it can be tricky.
A juggling act.
You can do several performances a week too. It's not unusual at all. It's a totally different thing. Anyway.
So stamina-wise, in the sense of, it sounds more similar to what we look at with our Broadway schedule versus, except in that you're only doing one show.
That's right. It's not quite as intense as that.
No,
Right.
maybe repertory theater.
Yeah, and there are
Definitely.
some companies in the States that are almost year-round,
Right.
where it's similar to what happens in Germany.
It's like the Metropolitan Opera, actually. They have a season, and they have many shows running throughout, from September to May or whatever. And that's the way the German opera houses run.
Right. All right. So, is there anything you wish you would have been taught as a student to help prepare you as you embarked on your operatic career? Some class, some subject, some pearl of wisdom.
This kind of stuff that you're doing with these students, I think, is great.
Thank you.
And I didn't have anything like that. I would have loved to have had something
absolutely.
like that. I think it was a different age. We didn't have internet and all the technical stuff that you all have now. But I think that's fantastic.
I think languages, I don't think singers or aspiring young singers get near the language training that they need. I did it on my own because I left the middle of my master's and went to Germany. I was so tired of school.
Change of scenery.
And I really studied German, before I went, but still, when I arrived in Berlin and people would talk to me, I didn't get it at all. It took a while, so I really think if they could get more training in these, especially the basic 3 languages that we sing in, it would be fabulous. It would prepare them so much more than if they decide they want a career in Germany, and they're not going to hire anymore if you don't speak the language, unless you're just like a Birgit Nielsen or something.
Right.
And I remember I saw a performance in the Berlin Opera, and everyone sang in German except for Birgit. She sang in Italian, the Turandot.
Oh my goodness.
I can just hear her now. I'm not singing it in German.
So, one student wanted to know, what was the legal process, or is it complicated in being an American, going overseas, and diving into that contract?
Well, in the German opera houses, the theater where you get engaged, they do it for you. They do all that. There's a lot of paperwork you have to do. You're constantly going to different offices, but getting the work permit and stuff, the theater takes care of that. At least they did when I went there. I don't know about the other countries, because I've just done concerts there, so I don't know how that works there.
But you don't do it without an agent.
So did you have an agent before you went over, or you got an agent once there?
But I sang for a cattle call, and the assistant to Christoph Dohnanyi was there, and I didn't hear anything back, and then all of a sudden I got a call from an agent saying they want to hear you in Frankfurt. And that's when I got the agent. And I sang and I got a contract in Frankfurt. Yeah.
Wonderful. So planting those seeds along the way.
Yeah, you never know when an audition is going to pay off. You just never know.
That's great. How about you, Sandra?
You have to get an agent, yeah. You can have as many agents as you want over there. Whereas in this country...
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can have, they do have certain ones that are called managers, and then they want you to sign with them. But for the ones that are sending you out to these opera houses, you can work for several, or several can work for you. Excuse me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's move into masterclass. What got this project started? Whose idea was it? What?
Okay, well, we have a theater in Baton Rouge called Theater Baton Rouge. It used to be Baton Rouge Little Theater, and the director, who had been in one of my Alexander classes actually, called me and asked if I would like to then co-direct for the company doing masterclass, and I said, absolutely. I was thrilled, just thrilled to work on it. And then we needed a cast, and these kids have to be good singers. So I thought of Sandra. And I approached her first of all, and she was not interested.
I said, absolutely not.
And we should give it a little background. This is a play. There are, I don't know how many pages of...
It's 50 pages. It's like memorizing a book.
Extensive dialogue and really becoming Maria Callas, and embodying her in every possible way, and Sandra does it so beautifully well.
Yeah, it's marvelous.
It's
marvelous to see, and it was wonderful to see the process with her, because Sandra, you'd never been on the stage before as an actress.
I had done dialogue, but it was mostly in German dialogue from operettas, but in English, well, not the G&S stuff. Ohio Light Opera Company helped me in that because you have to deliver dialogue there, but
yeah,
she helped me.
We had a lot of fun. Yeah, and she does monologues. I call them megalogues. They are just pages and pages about her life and her shattered life, really.
Right.
And it's extraordinary, all the different moods that she has to go through. And Sandy just does a gorgeous job. I can't imagine anyone doing it any better.
Was it hard to be memorizing so much text without the rhythmical structure of a score of music?
That is tricky. And so, a good way to learn music too is with the gesture. And so I tried to also just use that to try to memorize things with gestures. I use a lot of my arms when I'm doing this role. But no, just, if you think about it, I did a role like Madame Butterfly, which is 90 minutes of music in a different language and learning the notes. I thought I should be able to learn something in my mother tongue, a play.
Right. But watching you I've been enjoying watching you this week. You have this, I don't want to say you repeat in a set manner, but you have a beautiful rhythm that just flows and evolves. There isn't music when you're talking, but you really get that sense, don't you?
Oh,
agree?
Absolutely.
And it has this beautiful, just rhythmical flow, ebb and flow. I hadn't even thought of the gesture. You do use the gesture a lot, but I was more enraptured with the timing of what you're doing. Well,
and it's been beautiful to watch her grow into the role. And each performance, she brings something new to it, which is really the mark of a wonderful actress.
Definitely. So,
I'm here.
So I want to bring out some of our other cohorts who are involved in the production of Masterclass here, because to give a little background, you had approached about bringing this here, and it just seemed like a wonderful opportunity to have a collaborative endeavor with guest artists and faculty. But I'm going to bring out Amanda Johnston here in a moment. Amanda is on faculty here with me at the University of Mississippi, and she is a friend to LMR. She's been showcased on the Beat series, which is now LMR Live, and some exciting news about her, which I'll just say now, her book, English and German Diction for Singers, A Comparative Approach, is now out in second edition. When we promoted her on a Beat, give her a hand. We had the first edition. You're coming out. You can't hold her back. So it is a big deal to have a second edition, and here it is, and it's beautiful, and it's helpful, and it also has a workbook. Yes?
Yes, it does.
So very proud, very proud. So here's the big news. On Saturday night, Ms. Johnston, Amanda Johnston, is a role in the production of Masterclass. She plays the role of the accompanist. So we're going to talk about that in a second. We're going to bring out some of the other cohorts. We also have 2 alumni here in town, and both of these individuals hold a very special place in my heart. I'd say all of the faculty here, we're very proud of our students, wouldn't you say? And we've brought back Carline Waugh, who graduated in 2012 with her master's in vocal performance, and She was a student of mine. Carline is a Jamaican-born soprano who is praised for her ability to mesmerize audiences. She has thrilled audiences around the globe. She has given recent performances in Russia, Finland, Italy, Austria, the United States, and the Caribbean. And I want to say again, she went here to Ole Miss, and I got to work with her. All right, Carline! One of my babies! Welcome. And last, but certainly not least, Kyle Davis, who also received his master's in vocal performance from the university in 2015. Kyle is a very charismatic tenor who immerses himself into any role that he does. He is so versatile, and he has credits in varying styles, and he studied with Dr. Bradley Robinson when he was here under his tutelage, and Kyle is no stranger to LMR. You will remember him from the Lipa beat, where I did terrible in the game. He was my partner, poor guy. But let's bring out Kyle. Kyle Davis. You're welcome. So, first, Carline and Kyle, how does it feel to be back in Oxford?
Warm.
Oh. Very good point. They need microphones that will help in our audience being able to hear.
Warm.
It's really great being back. It's kind of surreal walking the halls and not having to go to my 8 a.m. diction class. It's
Really,
it's
8
different.
a.m.? Really?
Or being reminded that you forgot about the 8 a.m. diction class.
There you go. So I want to ask the three of you, why should people come see Masterclass? I mean, what mark has this show made on you in any way?
I think it's really great because there's issues that every young singer, I think there's things that we realized about us, painfully real things that young singers go through about thinking that they can fudge their way through and be like, well, that's not really important to worry about every aspect of music, about every aspect of performance, and it makes it painfully real, the difference between true art and almost a mockery, actually.
Very well put. Yeah.
Thank you.
It also gives us a completely different insight into Maria Callas. We, as well, I idolize her, and we get to see her in a different setting. We normally associate her with the performance stage, but here she is a teacher, and we get a look into her life through the story. So
Definitely.
it's really awesome.
Yeah. Amanda?
When I first read it, I was really surprised by how brutally realistic it is as a master class. Not just what is said, but how the singers react, how the pianist reacts. And I think it's quite amazing that the playwright captured that atmosphere in every way. It's for people that have ever attended a master class, I think they will recognize so many elements, and for people who haven't, it might interest them to get that insight into our world.
Definitely, because it is a whole other arena. When you're doing a master class, you're putting yourself up in front of an audience. You're often working with an expert in the field that you don't really know, and there's the pressure of what all you personally want to accomplish. You want obviously to make an impression upon the person you're working with, and then it's in front of all of these spectators who are analyzing what you're doing also. It's a strange entity.
The thing what I think is really cool is that you get to not only see the vulnerability of the performers, but also the practitioner, which you really don't think about that when you're viewing a masterclass, So it's just really interesting the way everything plays out on stage.
Definitely. And I want to tie to what you said even a moment ago. I think this is something any of us forget about when there's someone that we look up to or we admire. We can sometimes forget that they are human, and the human and vulnerable and imperfect aspects of Maria Callas are just really exposed. And I don't want to say, I don't find joy in that in any way, but it's a really good moment to remember people that we have amongst us that we look up to, that they're real people. Because I think it's a problem in today's society, actually, how we expect people to just sort of ride a certain wave all the time if they're in certain positions. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, everyone idolizes Maria Callas, at least from my generation. And I taught a class this morning, and I asked all of them if they had heard of her, and they said no, and I felt like a fossil.
No, but that's another issue nowadays, and I've said this before, even though we can access things so quickly, you can listen to things all the time, people don't know, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to the younger generation, but there's not this sense of who they're actually listening to, where was it recorded. I mean, I've said this before, but back in my day when I'd walk across campus and give my ID to get my headphones and sit at the turntable, I mean, I was looking at the record. I was seeing who it was. I was reading all about it, or even, jump forward how many decades with the CD. You at least had the liners. Now, everything iTunes, what are we listening to? And that's where you run into this idea where people don't know the legacy or the lineage of their vocal history. Yeah?
And she was the template, really.
Definitely.
For sopranos. Well, I guess for all opera singers, but I mean, people really tried to model themselves after her. She brought to opera something that had never been seen before, at least in my generation.
And she brought people into the houses. I mean, people were suddenly, coming to the opera.
Yeah.
She was a real legend in her time. She had the paparazzi and everything. She was a superstar, like Hollywood actors are now. She was that then,
right?
In the 60s and early 70s. And I listened in preparation. I listened also to the real master classes at Juilliard. They're on audio. And some of the monologues are actually taken exactly from the master classes. And she was a bit more docile in the real master classes.
Yeah.
And it's a little dramatized in the play, and she can be quite brutal to the singers. But
you get to see us. I should point out, Kyle, Carline, and myself play the singers that Maria works with in the master class. And we each go through a different journey. And then Amanda, as the accompanist, has to sit there and sort of be present for all of these, what's the right word? I don't know.
Butcherings?
Sacrifices? Yes. Something like that. Something like that.
I tell her that she's sort of the Greek chorus of the play and is constantly reacting to everything that happens. And she's great.
I'm used to awkward moments.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Oh, so stereotypes, so pianists. Can we make a generalization? I don't know. The pianists are used to dealing with those kinds of things?
Absolutely.
Well, like I said before, I think it's just very realistically written. And if someone were crucified like that in a master class and I were the pianist, I would react like I do in the play.
Yeah.
I would want to disappear, and I would feel very sorry for the person up there, the subject of it. And there are moments too when Maria Callas is not especially nice to me, and how I would handle that in public,
So
it's interesting.
What were your thoughts when we first asked you to do this?
Well, I'll say this. Unfortunately, I accepted this. No. What I mean to say is, unfortunately, I accepted this before I read it. So in theory, I was very excited to be part of a play, to act when I have never acted before. But I did not read the fine print, namely that I would be singing, which is my own personal nightmare, which will now be on display Saturday night.
She does a wonderful job.
Great chest voice.
Really good, really good.
It's been a great challenge.
But talk about, that's really stepping out of one's comfort zone.
Definitely,
and
definitely.
Did it bring any new, don't want to say appreciation or new just thought process to what a singer goes through, or no?
Oh no,
No?
I mean, I feel like as a collaborative pianist who works with singers, I think I know exactly how vulnerable singers are.
Yeah.
It's just not a skill that I think I possess particularly. So it's more about that.
Now, Carline, your character has a lot of dialogue. Something you've done much of, not?
No, dialogue for me is somewhat of a nightmare also. So initially I was a bit hesitant because it's just, I'm more comfortable singing.
Well, and I think this is something in our training, and this is something I really believe in nowadays more than ever. I think we need to be giving music students, vocal students, acting classes in places where they are really honing dialogue skills. I mean, I think it's really important.
Yeah, it has been a challenge, just finding the character without music. You know, I just have text
Right.
And yourself,
and myself.
your own inner resources.
No, but it's true. We're used to we have much more parameters when we're in the midst of that score or that song. Yeah, definitely. How about for you, Kyle? What's sort of been your, I don't know, discovery through your character, or I would think you're very comfortable with dialogue.
Yeah, so I actually started more with musical theater than I did with opera. And so it was a different technique sometimes because we were so used to making choices with theater to go, that's an interesting choice, lose it. You know, and to try to be, okay, what is the composer saying here? What is the music saying here? Okay, let me take that into consideration. But I think what is so great that's talked about in the show, I won't say much, but what's talked about in Masterclass is the fact that there can't be art without personal input. And, you know, we talked about, you know, listening to singers of past generations. And nowadays we get into this habit of, well, I'm doing this, okay, I'm not giving it my full 100%. And so when you give yourself and you have to be vulnerable and you have to say, this is my choice, not the character, not the singer, this is Kyle's choice. And this is Kyle's emotions that he's pulling from. That's when there was real art, but that's when it's the scariest part,
For
you know,
sure.
especially when it's just dialogue and it's just your choice. So.
But isn't it wonderful being up there with Sandra? The energy that you exude in the character is just really exquisite.
Well, thank you very much.
Also terrifying when she's counts.
It is terrifying,
but it's wonderful.
but it's very easy to play off of, yes? Very easy to play off of. So are the tenor and soprano stereotypes and pianist stereotypes, do any of them hold water? There's a little bit of this alluded to in the play, yeah?
I'm not aware of any tenor stereotypes.
Never heard of it.
Or why are those stereotypes? I mean, I think for a tenor, the fact you are always singing, I mean, not always, but with all the voice types, in your most extreme part, you really are the most vulnerable out there when you're always on the verge. On the verge, that has to be, we talk about being vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so I think that in itself can create a sort of a, I don't know, personality trait per se.
Oh yeah, and it's hard sometimes to fight the fact that these characters sometimes are trying to climb over this big obstacle. So of course they're trying to get the limelight because they're trying to get the object of the affection of everyone in the show. So of course they're trying to get in the limelight, but that sometimes goes backstage and goes, well, I want the attention now too, you know, and it's the curtain's over. So some of those stereotypes are hard to fight, but again, I think when you can break that down, you can see true virtue, which is great too in the show.
Yeah, yep.
I think also the tenor voice type is the most unnatural voice type that there is, and so that's why they are the way they are.
Thank you.
No, but I think there are, you know, and I do find it interesting what comes first, the personality or the career or the personality? And it's probably a combination of both. I mean,
I
there's
think it
no
is,
hard,
yeah.
fast answer. But it is interesting to look at it, not to label in the sense of, but you are a tenor, you are a soprano, you are a pianist. You know, it's like those things are for sure. And it's just interesting to think, okay, what brings oneself to this? You know, I don't know. Anything else you want to add about masterclass?
I just wanted to say that I think for me, what's most realistic is not just the stereotypes of the singers, but their reaction to feedback. From my perspective, that the playwright nails it. The various defense mechanisms that come into play, the different means of reacting to the feedback, the way they both handle it, for me is a day in the life of my job.
Right.
That I see those kinds of reactions. I mean that in a nice way.
Yeah. Like Terrence McNally really hit that nail on the head.
Really realistic, and also the lack of preparation, or that they think they really honestly both think they're prepared for the master class. And I think that really is the case. Most people underestimate the level of preparation necessary, and there's a really neat way that the play depicts that.
Definitely.
And
Well
I think
said.
that we as singers, we associate our voices with our personality, and sometimes it's hard to divide those two things, and we really have to, because a violinist, they can put their violin down, but when we as singers are criticized by someone, our first instinct is to take it personally, and you really have to see it more as a business, or you can go crazy.
Yeah.
It can
that's
make
true.
you crazy and give you all these neuroses.
Yeah, but it is hard because you are your instrument.
That's right.
You know, and this is me. Yeah, it makes it hard. Well, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. We're gonna shift here. We're gonna shift to our game, which will involve Sandra and Pat. So let me give a little background on the game, and then we'll do our little video intro. You've all heard of Family Feud, right? We are going to mix up Family Feud with music, and we are doing, what are we doing? We're doing Vocation Vendetta. So we're going to jump to the final round of what would be Family Feud. Although they are not acting as one team, Sandra and Pat are going to be going against one another. We had a coin toss before we started. Thank you to Mac. And I believe Sandra is going first. So we polled over 50 individuals with our questions related to opera. These are not necessarily music enthusiasts, could be random people, but over 50 people, and they're going to try to come up with the most common answer, or the answer that came back the most. So we're going to play that. So let's shift to Vocation Vendetta. All right, we always play a game. Got to have it fun. It's also interesting with this idea of pulling people into what we do. It was interesting to see what people's reactions or answers were to these questions. So we have Pat off stage left. Her fingers are in her ears, as the character Sophie does in Masterclass, and I've asked her to hum gently so she cannot hear what is happening. We are going to put 45 seconds on the clock. I will try to not mumble jumble on my words as I ask you these questions. Cody, are you ready to notate the answers? Yes. All right. Tell me when. Go. What is the biggest excuse people give for not attending the opera?
They have a dentist appointment.
What country do you think of when you think opera?
Italy.
What is an opera singer's favorite drink?
Wine.
Who is the most famous opera singer?
Maria Callas.
What is the most common opera plot?
Love.
What is an opera singer's worst fear?
Stage fright.
Name an opera.
La Boheme.
She did pretty well there. Very nice. Very nice. You may have a seat. See, I had to indicate very big, so I know she was not listening. All right. We're going to give you a little more time on the clock.
Okay.
A little more time on the
'Cause
clock.
I'm a
I said
little old
45
lady, or-
seconds. That was only 30, right? Yeah, so you get 45 because if Pat says an answer that Sandra has already shared, she has to pick a different one. Oh,
Okay.
goodness, I have to remember what they were. Oh, Lord. Okay, here we go. You're going to have to be the buzzer. Okay. Tell me when it's time. What is the biggest excuse people give for not attending the opera?
It's boring.
What country do you think of when you think opera?
Italy. Germany.
What is an opera singer's favorite drink?
Wine. Oh, Scotch.
Who is the most famous opera singer?
Oh, golly.
Just
Maria Callas. Golly. There are too many. Most famous.
pick anyone you want.
Birgit Nilsson.
Okay. What is the most common opera plot?
Opera plot. Boy meets girl.
Okay.
Boy loses girl.
Sure. What is an opera singer's worst fear?
Cracking on a high note.
Name one opera.
Carmen.
Perfect. Very nice. Very nice. I think these two spend some time together with their similar answers. Yes. Wine and then scotch. All right.
I'm surprised you went there.
All right. So Cody, are we good? All right. So we're going to look at how we did here. We're going to see who did the
That was
best.
fun.
So first question, what is the biggest excuse people give for not attending the opera? Our number one answer was language. Language. So what country do you think of when you think opera? Italy was number one. You both said Italy to start. And then the number two answer was Germany.
Okay.
So, got that on the board? Great. What is an opera singer's favorite drink? I thought more people were going to say wine. I really thought that was going to be
they would
it.
say
But they
water.
said water. Water was the number one answer. Then tea. The third choice was wine. Who is the most famous opera singer? We got Pavarotti.
Oh, of course.
Pavarotti. Then we also got Renee Fleming and Andrea Bocelli.
Oh, okay.
What is the most common opera plot? We got love, romance. Am I going too fast? And second was tragedy and then murder. What is an opera singer's worst fear? Number one, laryngitis. Followed by sick, followed by pronunciation of lyrics. Last one, name one opera. Number one answer, La Bohème. Followed by Phantom of the Opera. We shan't judge. And third being Carmen.
Okay.
So we had some answers on the board. So who came ahead? While he's figuring that out, I'm going to get our prizes ready. Poor Cody. And we're going to deck you out, you two. So even though we said this was a competition, we're giving you both.
Oh,
So
how
we're going to give you
fun.
some of our gear, our LMR, the music revolution continues, some of our shirts here. So I'm going to give you these. And we can pick the exact size afterwards. But I'm gonna
thank
give
you.
these
I was
give you
hoping
these
to get a
little
t-shirt.
happies over here.
That's really neat.
you go.
Thank you.
So who came out ahead? Sandra. So
I
Sandra,
salute you.
I'm going to have to get you. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. So I'll have to either find that bottle of wine, that perfect bottle of wine, or that perfect bottle of scotch for you. So let me ask you both specifically, what are you hoping people take away from Masterclass? What do you hope?
I think that what we do is important, and it takes a lot of discipline, and hopefully that they will have a love for the opera, because it's hard in this country. People don't, pop music is a little bit more the thing. So that's what I would think.
How about you, Pat?
Very similar, that they would understand the struggles of an opera singer to, it's an incredibly disciplined art. And there's a vulnerability that you have to expose in order to really move your audience. And for your voice to emerge in all its beauty. And to get to that place, to be so open within yourself, and to learn to trust that and not know really whether the voice is going to be there for you. As you learn a technique, you learn to trust that a lot more, but there's still this jumping off the cliff that you have to do, and you have to learn to trust that. And I think that this play, Maria, helps people come to this place where they are learning to be vulnerable, but vulnerable with the background of having studied and prepared.
What do you think we could be doing as artists, as performers, as educators, as lovers of this art form to draw folks in? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think we are doing a lot of that. I know the Met has initiated a great program of bringing people more into the art form by doing these broadcasts, and also doing some innovative music that people are more interested in. So I think those are wonderful things. It is a difficult art form. It's a hybrid art form, and it does require the listener to educate themselves a little bit. I think that opera companies have served them well by putting translations so that people know what's being said. So that's, I think, very helpful. They go into the schools and they bring the kids to matinees. I've performed, I did a Gilda at 9 a.m. for little screaming kids. But you know, I don't know that it's ever going to come in the forefront of society in this country. I don't know that that's going to happen. I hope it survives, because I think it's a beautiful, beautiful art. And there are a lot of new operas being written now, like Jake Hagee's Dead Man Walking, that are so current what's going on in our society today. So maybe things like that will help as well.
For sure. How about you, Sandra?
I think bringing good acting singers, because when someone can act well, and I think that's what Masterclass is about, that Maria Callas she tried to make the singers think while the music, when they weren't singing, to think about what they're thinking about. Because if someone is, there's a big interlude, what do you do in that part? And that's when people get bored in the opera, because they're just, people are standing there and singing. And I think if better acting would be in the operas, that would draw people in more, because then they could understand it more, and they could visualize it.
Relate to it. Relate to it. Are either of you familiar with the projects Renee Fleming has going on in Chicago, the Opera Project, sort of a community endeavor where, I don't know how much she's directly involved with it, but she sort of oversees. I was hearing about this at the NATS National Convention. It's so exciting, because it's this idea, or I find it exciting, that opera, for this purpose, is really just text that is sung. and allowing people in the community to come together and create a work. And it might have hints of Baroque music, or it might have hints of reggae, or it might have hints of hip hop, but it's people coming together and creating a story based on what's happening in the community, and that there's this sense of ownership in it. And I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how it works and how it unfolds. I don't know how well that translates to those coming to other things, but an idea of, you know, building a bridge or giving an extended arm of let's figure this out together. Because it is something that, it's like the difference between making a Betty Crocker cake and, say, a homemade cheesecake, right? You know, anyone, you know, like, it doesn't take much skill or understanding. Anyone can read the box, I hope, you know, and make the cake. But if you're going to make that great cheesecake, you've got to give it time, you've got to know what you're doing, and it's going to take lots of times before you get to that great cake. And I think we don't maybe encourage people enough to keep trying. You might like it the next time, you know. I always do food analogies. I don't know what that's about, but I always use the asparagus saying too, you know, you give someone asparagus, you maybe just didn't give it to them the right way. And that's what I wish people would do. They wouldn't just go to their first opera and think, this isn't for me. Because I think back, the first opera I went to as a child, not as a child, I was a young adult, I didn't like. And, you know, but it didn't turn me away. It just, that one, whether it was the cast or the concept or the production, it just didn't speak to me. But that doesn't mean across the board, all opera is a no-go.
No,
you know?
Right.
And sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. And the idea of also making it more accessible, that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be dressed in your most expensive attire. You don't have to spend your whole week's earning to get in the door. That it's more for the common, for everybody.
I have a really cute story. I hope we have time for it.
Please.
Jeff Wells, who sang at the Met, studied with my mom in high school, and he wanted to be a preacher. And she could tell, you know, it was a really wonderful instrument. So we were doing magic flute at LSU, and she got him tickets. And he says, take your best girl on a date. I want you to go see a show. She didn't dare say opera. So he went to see the show, and he came back for his next lesson. He said, I liked that a whole lot. Oh, she told him also it was about a preacher, you know, Sarastra.
Right.
So
Reel them in.
And then his next lesson, he says, you know, I really like that show, and I especially liked the guy who played the part of the chicken, Papageno.
That's hilarious.
But he ended up at the Met, you know?
That's amazing. You know, and that's the thing. Just you don't know which path's going to take you where. Well, anything else you would ultimately like to add? I'm going to make a few thank yous here in a second. Anything you want to add on this subject matter?
I hope you come to the show. It's
Oh,
really
please
a wonderful
come.
show. To see Nancy, who
She's
is a
marvelous.
spectacular singer and actress, so committed to what she's doing, and to do all this, I'm very impressed. And also our colleagues who are also sitting here, it's just fantastic that they're involved, and I hope people come to see it.
And her wonderful dream team.
That's
These
right.
guys
That's
are
what I'm about
fabulous.
to talk about. So all of this is possible because of students in the music department at the University of Mississippi. And one of the main points of the Living Music Resource is giving these students opportunities to hone skills that enhance their already wonderfully established curriculum. And there's a team of 6 students that I'm having the pleasure of working with this year who are so beautifully committed, and I am indebted to them, and I'm also inspired by them because they are producing this show. They are producing it. Melanie Culhane is over there working the live stream. Olivia Sanders is working sound. Charlie Miles is helping overseeing things. He's not part of the dream team, he's staff, but I must acknowledge Charlie Miles. We have Hadassah Strong over here, who's been doing many, many things. Our social media, helping with logistics, greeting people, and we have Cody Arthur, who is working this. And I have to, he did the Prezi, he does all these things. Who did I leave out? Lacey Hindman, who is working our main camera. And those are just little things that they're doing. There is so much work that these kids are doing, and I call them kids because I'm old, but they are showing such initiative, and that is one of the things that inspires me. And I would just like to encourage all, no matter what age you are, that when an opportunity is presented or a task is before you, to just run with it. And that's what these kids do, and it's so beautiful to see. So please give these young people a hand.
And Cody's in the show.
And yes, Cody is in the show of Masterclass. He plays the stagehand. And Lacey is the cover for Carline, and she stepped up and she did beautifully getting up and doing it. Melanie is covering me. These kids are getting experience on and off the stage, and they're just, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I get to be around them on a daily basis. There are so many people to thank beyond the Dream Team. I want to thank donors who helped make this possible, for this to be a free resource. I'm indebted to the Powerhouse for letting us be here, Wayne Andrews and all of the staff. I want to thank the music department for supporting this endeavor. And I want to thank all of you for coming, those who are here and those who are watching. Spread the word about LMR, spread the word about what we're doing, and I hope that we are extending that arm, reaching out, drawing people in to what we do. I say the classical music, because I think that umbrella is rather large nowadays, as it should be. But we're extending that arm out to the community and folks who maybe think, why would I go? They get to know us a bit, they're excited, and they come. The music research revolution continues.